Last night, Tucker Carlson made a bold claim on his show. He said that a whistleblower had approached him, provided his show with communications that came from Tucker's phone or email, the only place they could have come from, and stated that the NSA was spying on Tucker Carlson and was planning on leaking his information, his communications, in an attempt to get the show removed from the air. It's hard to know what's true these days. Hyperpolarization is within the highest levels of government. We have clear delineation between factions, the establishment, the anti-establishment. Tucker Carlson, of course, is one of the most prominent anti-establishment voices, if not the most prominent. So do I believe it? It's hard to say for sure. But I will say I would err on the side of Tucker's telling the truth. I don't see a reason for him to lie. Perhaps he's preempting something like this. I don't know. Maybe Tucker's really the villain. Maybe someone who works for his company has the communications and he's trying to claim it's the NSA to protect himself in the event some damning information comes out. Or maybe Tucker's telling the truth. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy to me to just make things up to generate partisan conflict. Now, of course, if you ask the left, they'll claim, of course he is. He's a liar. He's a deceiver. Actually, Tucker Carlson may be like the most honest guy on TV. I don't agree with everything he says. But should this story prove true, it is one of the most horrifying developments we've seen so far. The Hill reports Tucker Carlson says Biden administration is spying on him. Are we at this point? Perhaps. Right now in Arizona, they've announced they've wrapped up their audit. We don't know exactly what we're going to get from it, but I can assure you this. YouTube will probably ban anyone who talks about the audit in Arizona. So this will get particularly interesting. Oh, sure, I can mention the audit. It happened. That's news. We know it happened. But the results, rumors are already circulating about what they found. I spoke with Matt Brainerd and he said, buckle up. You can check that out at timcast.com. New website should be launching soon. But if you scroll back far enough and find that Matt Brainerd episode, he talks a bit about it. Not enough details, not enough evidence for me to make a definitive statement. But I'll put it this way. If it's true that the Biden administration is going to be spying on opposition journalists and personalities, then don't be surprised when it gets bad. It gets real bad. I was just watching a clip from CNN. What's the guy's name? Donnie O'Sullivan. And he's going around asking people at this Trump rally what they think is going to happen. One guy claims that Trump will re-enter office or something in August. I really, really do not believe it. Come on. You know how many times they've said this, that, or otherwise. Oh, it's going to be March. It's going to be April. Oh, no, it's August. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever, dude. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not believing any of that stuff. But one guy said that he was a militia member. He said it was wrong for people to go into the Capitol, but that he really does believe violence is coming. Now, I've been a bit optimistic lately. I've been a bit optimistic thinking about what we're doing at timcast.com. I've been a bit optimistic based on what we're seeing. And even with the story about Tucker Carlson saying he's being spied on, I'm a bit optimistic. This is someone in the NSA standing up for what's right. And if more people do this, we can avert the long fall. But if people don't step up and be brave, then there will be the long fall. But I hear this story about Tucker. And while we can talk about the threat of violence, civil war, or a peaceful divorce, whatever it is, the fracturing of this country, when I hear that people in the NSA are not standing up for this unethical, probably illegal behavior, and are willing to go to Tucker and say, this is what's happening, it shows that there are still good people that are saying no to the chaos. If people don't step up within these agencies when they're committing these, well, I don't know if you should call them crimes, but when they're, spying on people, I say I don't know if we should call them crimes because they legalized their ability to spy on the American people, essentially violating our Fourth Amendment rights. The Constitution is Swiss cheese. But if there are people who are willing to stand up, then I believe at some point, if enough people stand up, then we will just stop where we are. The evil, amoral crackpots will be stopped dead in their tracks. The reality is the establishment does not have total control over the people, just the institutions. And the woke cultists are a tiny fraction of this country. But too many people are scared to speak up. This individual was brave. And don't forget, you can do two things. Become a member at timcast.com, help support our work and our journalism. It's something good you can do if you like the content we do and you like the fact that we're analyzing these stories. We're going to be hiring more people. But if you want to be brave and you are working for an organization where you see illegal activity or malfeasance that you want to blow the whistle on, you can always go to Project Veritas because they'll protect you. They'll support you. James O'Keefe is a true fighter. Take a look at this story. And then we're going to break down. Let me just put it this way. Adam Schiff published, I want to be very careful about how I say this for legal reasons. Adam Schiff was accused of publishing the private phone records of a journalist and then later denied it. It then came out recently that Donald Trump was spying on Schiff, and Schiff is outraged. I don't care, whatever. You know what the point of that is? Trump's spying on Schiff. Why? He's trying to find the source of leaks from the government, and that's a serious threat to government security. But spying on a congressman, even if you don't like the guy. But Adam Schiff, spying on journalists, you see where this leads to. A tit for tat. My side's right, your side's wrong. It doesn't matter whose side you're on. Now, of course, the disaffected liberals, the culture war right, conservatives, Trump supporters, I think all of you get this. The left doesn't. The leftists are like, oh, here goes Tim Pool talking about civil war again. I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong. I'm saying that when you see Trump say, I want information on Schiff, and Schiff says, I want information on journalists, Tucker Carlson gets a notification from a whistleblower saying that the NSA is spying on you and going to leak your communications to defame and discredit you. This is psychological warfare. Now, it's almost borderline hot war. It's not economic. It's not info war. It's partly info war. But this is using the weight of law enforcement against individual citizens for political power. This is the border of some kind of hot war. I wonder how it'll happen, though. I mentioned this yesterday. You had I think it was 5 counties in East Oregon voted to secede from Oregon and join Idaho. Many people say it's a pipe dream. It'll never happen. Oregon won't allow the eastern serfs to leave, and the federal government would never recognize it. So what does happen? Well, these people in Oregon aren't voting to secede from the Union. They're voting to secede from Oregon. What happens if they stop complying with the state saying we no longer recognize your jurisdiction? We no longer recognize your authority because we, the people, have revoked our consent to be governed and have chose someone else. I mean, that's the founding of this country, right? So what are they going to do? What is Oregon going to send in state police and occupy Eastern Oregon when these people say no? That'll be really interesting. And who will come to their aid? I don't know. What happens if these people are still paying their federal taxes but stop paying their state taxes? I'm talking about entire counties. We're dangerously close to this. These people have already said we do not respect what Portland is doing. So we will see. But first, let's start with what's going on with the spying and tit for tat. The Hill reports Tucker Carlson says Biden admin is spying on him. The television personality said the war on terror is now being waged against American citizens. The host went on to say that his show has heard from a whistleblower within the U.S. government who informed Carlson and producers that the NSA is, quote, monitoring our electronic communications and is planning to leak them in an attempt to take his show off the air. Now, that's a shocking claim, and ordinarily we'd be skeptical of it, Carlson told his viewers. The whistleblower, who was in a position to know, repeated back to us information about a story that we are working on that could have only come directly from my texts and emails. There's no other possible source for that information, period. Tucker said, the NSA captured that information without our knowledge, and it did it for political reasons. Carlson said that his show has sent a FOIA request and related to any alleged information gathered by the NSA and other agencies on the show. The television personality offered no additional evidence to support his claim, which drew scrutiny from several users on social media. All right, let's analyze this. Let's analyze this scrutiny. Bradley P. Moss says Tucker is making serious accusations with no proof and is basing corroboration on a story he allegedly is working on that none of us know about. Maybe his comms were picked up. We know DOJ collected comms of journos during Obama and Trump presidencies. Perhaps. Perhaps Tucker Carlson is being tricked by a hacker, somebody who spoofed an email and is pretending to have this information. I don't think Tucker would willy-nilly just come out and say this unless they've done at least a little bit of verification. Meaning, if someone comes to me and says they're an NSA whistleblower, the first thing I do is verify some private information about them I look up their email address. I'll check their social media accounts, and I'll try and see if this individual is telling the truth. Did Tucker Carlson do that? I'd imagine he probably did. Brian J. Karam says, Tucker Carlson, the NSA isn't spying on you. Also, the FBI wasn't behind the insurrection. Critical race theory will not result in genocide. But you will say literally anything to get attention. You're a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Why? That's a weird thing to say. Isn't this Karam guy supposed to be like from CNN or something? If Tucker Carlson's making a claim, then what do? We analyze it. We assess it. The Hill has reached out to the NSA for comment. Carlson's comments came in a segment that began by discussing remarks from President Biden that top law enforcement officials have identified white supremacy as one of the greatest threats in the U.S. Carlson said he spoke to FBI agents who reportedly told him there are very few crimes committed by avowed white supremacists. Americans are, in fact, much more likely to die from a lightning strike than at the hands of a white supremacist, Carlson argued. White supremacy may be ugly, many opinions are, but it's not a meaningful threat to the nation. Well, I agree with that last bit, but we're talking about an escalation. We're not talking about this stupid specter of white supremacy. Now, perhaps that's being used as a cudgel, as a manipulation technique to gain power, to justify the federal government going after certain individuals, to shut them down, to target militia groups or anyone who may be a threat as they're consolidating power. Here's a story from Salon. Adam Schiff calls for investigation after report Trump administration spied on his family. This baseless investigation, while now closed, is in another example of Trump's corrupt weaponization of justice. I don't believe so. I don't believe this is an example of Trump's corrupt weaponization of justice. This is Donald Trump and the government going after leaks. And if the NSA is spying on people, and we know that Obama spied on journalists and prosecuted more whistleblowers and journalists under the Espionage Act than all other presidents combined, why should I be shocked that Trump was looking for a leaker? And if that's true, and Adam Schiff is making this claim, sure, okay. It is shocking to hear that a president was investigating or spying on Adam Schiff. But what about this story now that Tucker Carlson is being spied on? Should I believe it's not true when you are claiming that Trump was spying on a congressman? No. The people in power take that power and use that power. And there you go. They're going to spy, and we're going to see the escalation of this. It's not just about Tucker Carlson. Check out this story from the Wall Street Journal's opinion section. Schiff threatens press freedom. When the surveillance state exposes a journalist and his sources, there's an instant chilling effect. This is from December 9th, 2019, so a year and a half ago. Reports came out. Documents were released. Adam Schiff published private details. Well, let me just read, because for legal reasons, we got to be very careful. From the Wall Street Journal, the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Domestic Investigations and Operations Guide, the Bible for Agents, has long recognized that journalists, the clergy, and lawyers deserve special protections because of the constitutional implications of investigating their work. Penitents who confess to a priest, sources who provide confidential information to a reporter, and clients who seek advice from counsel are assumed to be protected by a high bar of privacy, which must be weighed against the state's interests in investigating matters or subpoenaing records. Judges and members of Congress also fall into a special FBI category because of the Constitution's separations of powers. The FBI and Justice Department have therefore created specific rules governing agents' actions involving special circumstances professionals, which include high-level approval and review. There are also special rules for subpoenaing journalists. If the executive branch, and by extension the courts, that enforce these privacy protections, observe the need for such sensitivity, it seems reasonable that Congress should have similar guardrails ensuring that the powers of the state are equally and fairly applied. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff apparently doesn't see things that way. His committee secretly authorized subpoenas to AT&T earlier this year for the phone records of President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, and an associate. He then arbitrarily extracted information about certain private calls and made them public. Many of the calls to Mr. Schiff chose to publicize fell into the special circumstance categories. A fellow member of Congress, Chairman Nunes of the Intelligence Committee, a ranking member of the Intelligence Committees and a Republican, 2 lawyers, and a journalist, John Solomon. They published his private details of his phone calls. Was that fair game? Donald Trump is investigating these actions. Is that fair game? Tucker Carlson is being investigated. Is that fair game? The point is both sides will use their moral justifications for why they should be doing what they're doing. Now, of course, many of us probably believe, yeah, the NSA is wrong to spy on Tucker. Yeah, they were wrong to spy or to publish the private information of a journalist and Trump's lawyer. The left will make their arguments as well, that Trump was wrong to spy on Schiff and they were justified to go after corruption because everyone thinks the other side is the evil side. Perhaps we are right. Perhaps our side is the correct side. But does it matter? The escalation is here. The escalation is serious. They're spying on journalists. It's been happening. Adam Schiff did it. And now, according to Tucker Carlson, Biden is doing it. Obama did it. What did Trump do? Perhaps something similar, because people are weaponizing the power of government for their own political gains. And what happens when the factions view each other as inherently evil and that must be stopped, or the true threat to democracy? Democracy, they say. Well, the Democrats keep saying that Republicans are the bad guys. They're the wingnut party of white supremacy. And I'm sorry, that's a lie. It's 100% not true. It's not true. Republicans seem to sit on their hands, not really get much done. Of course, it's strange because I hear from so many activists on the left that the Democrats are doing the same thing. But let me break it down for you. When the Democrats make demands like we want universal health care, Republicans say no. When the Democrats say we want to ban your AR-15s, the Republicans say no. Where are the Republicans saying we want to ban government healthcare programs? They don't. They agree with the Democrats. They're just going the speed limit. Where are the Republicans to say we want to repeal gun restrictions? Well, for the most part, at the federal level at least, they say, slow down there, Democrats. We'll ban some of it, but just give us some time. And that's the direction we go. Republicans provide no meaningful opposition to the Democrats. So the Democrats come out, and here's what they say. These activists say, we could have universal health care if the Democrats would just vote for it. And the Republicans say, we need strong Republicans to resist the Democrats. Okay. So long as that's the case, the Democrats are the only ones pulling. And all that's really happened is the Republicans are like stakes in the ground to be pulled out. They're not resisting. They're not pulling back. So as we see an escalation of tactics where they're going to manipulate and they're going to spy on people, where they're going to use the weight of the federal government to go after political rivals, what do you think that means? Trump may respond saying someone leaked, and I'd like to get to the bottom of it. And what do we get from Adam Schiff? He goes straight to a journalist's private records. Joe Biden goes straight to a journalist's private communications, not in blocking an action, not with Donald Trump. An action had been taken, leaking, and he wanted to figure out who or why. What do we get with the Democrats? They take action preemptively. They want to know what you're doing beforehand. They'll publish it. So what do you think is going to happen? As the Democrats gain more and more power, they will be the instigators. And it's not even necessarily Democrat or Republican. Those are just avatars, brand names for some element of the political body in the culture war. I fear what may end up happening is stories like this are going to freak people out. You're going to end up with maybe Eastern Oregon. I mean, look, you got record heat slamming the Pacific Northwest right now. It's like 112 degrees right now. And you know what's happening is these big cities are using the eastern counties as serfs. Now, most of their tax revenue probably doesn't come from the east, but a lot of it does. So they're not going to represent them. They're not going to provide for them, but they're going to extract from them. Eventually, these counties might just say no, and their local police departments will say no. And then what? State police will have to come out and shut down these cities and occupy and make arrests. That'll be scary. Maybe it won't happen in Eastern Oregon. I don't know. But what do you think happens when they actually do leak Tucker Carlson's private information? Maybe Tucker Carlson preempting this will stop it from happening. Because now if the information gets leaked, people will point the finger at the Biden administration. But if they're already engaging in this behavior, how long until it all just goes pop? And then people just say, I've had enough. Non-compliance is powerful. These states are already saying that they're not going to comply. Texas and Florida said later when it came to the COVID restrictions. California is now banning Florida and 4 other states, saying if you are working for the state, you cannot travel to these places. Why? Because of their politics. No joke. Because of their politics. Why is it that we should be beholden to the whims of California when they want open borders and they demand the census count the people they let in the country illegally. That's actually what happens. Illegal immigrants come to California, get counted in the census, and it gives California political power. I believe it was the Heritage Foundation that estimated they get about one extra electoral vote. Not the end of the world, but that's still substantial. It's a free vote based on the fact that the census counts non-citizens, and then congressional seats are apportioned based on the amount of people, not citizens, and then your electoral vote is based on how many seats in Congress you have. You see how this works. Why should anyone else in the United States stand for something like that? I don't know. And with the speed of communications these days, with our ability to make videos like this and text each other and share these videos, it seems likely that more and more people are going to be apprised of the situation. And when it happens, there will be a rapid response. It used to take months. It used to take a long time. Now it's happening faster and faster. So that's where things get a bit more worrying, I suppose. Maybe Tucker Carlson's wrong. Maybe someone's manipulating him. I don't think Tucker's an idiot. I think he did the basic level of fact checking. I think he looked into this person's name, probably said this guy works for the NSA. It's true. Or a contractor. And they're spying on us. So do you think they're spying on you? They're probably spying on me as well. Especially as we start ramping up timcast.com. I can only imagine they're going to start spying on our communications to try and figure out what stories we're working on. Things should get interesting. As the curse proclaims, may you live in interesting times. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all then.